Raven, can you hear me? Just wanting to make sure. Got double Raven. Rich Lizard. I'm not sure. You're here twice. Sulky Selenite. Hello. I'm going to do my best today to cover my whole spirit staff journey, but I also have some ones I've been working on and one I kind of want to like maybe partially build today, and talk about like the reasons why I make certain decisions, or like how you can kind of like craft your own and use sentimental tokens, use gifts from nature. A lot of the more powerful things I've made, in my opinion, are things that I haven't bought and stuff that I've just found because it has more sentiment in it and more, you know, personal story. So it's one thing if the story is, I went to Hobby Lobby and I bought this thing. And it's a whole nother story if you're like, I was hiking in, you know, the desert and there was this crow that was eating this deer carcass and I went and I ripped off the jawbone, which is kind of what happened with one of the things I'm working on today. So excited. Yeah, I'll try to keep it like on one train of thought, but we all know how that goes sometimes. I've got my arsenal of magical sticks kind of behind me, and I might kind of like pull up different stories about some of those. So if y'all have any questions at any time, I'm going to do my best. There's a little bit of a lag in the chat, so just be a little patient with me. And I'm going to just grab a quick water. Already so thirsty. Could be anybody, I don't know, man. Can you hear me from back here? I first wanted to ask, what is a spirit staff? So a spirit staff to me is like a power object, something I use to like channel my energy through of the earth or of my own story. It kind of makes me feel like a nature warrior or like a superhero. I think it came about in a way that I was trying to make art, but I was trying to make it from a place of like the most sustainable and using only natural objects and not using glue, not using plastic, because I wanted the energy of the object to be all 100% like natural. Because I had been making cosplay staffs, and I started with like a Lady Gaga disco stick, which is like a curtain rod with a bunch of acrylic little beads on it, and it has a flashlight in it and it lights up. And that was my first kind of like tool that I started using when I was like freshly 21 years old, and could really like start to feel like the power of having like a totem, having like a beacon of light, and sort of like a source of emanating love, because I feel like a lot of what Spirit Salves has been about to me is love and a heart feeling, or almost like a bliss feeling, through crafting and through intention and having good sources of materials. Yeah, and I break my own rules all the time, so sometimes it's best to not be so strict with yourself, but I think for mostly intensive purposes of the facial stream, I'm sticking to like mostly natural items today. Yeah. So I've got a couple of these things. This is a deer mandible. If you know what a mandible is, it's like a jawbone. It's like a partial deer jawbone. And my dear friend gave this to me. He ripped it off a deer carcass with his sister hiking in Utah. And they wanted to give it to me because people love to give me dead things and make art with it. So I'm like, okay. It's actually been something I've meaning to use for a while, but I was kind of afraid because sometimes when it comes to like preparing bones for craft work, I can get a little like intimidated. I'm like, I don't want to do too much science. Not that it's like even science at all, but basically what you do to prepare bones, if it's generally does not have any fleshy bits on it, is you need to extract the fat out. Certain skulls have like more fat in the bone. It's just like the nature of bone. But certain animals are like greasier than others, like possums and bears and boars, pigs. They all have really greasy bones with a lot of fat in it. So you soak it in like dish soap and water, and you can do it repeatedly. Sometimes it takes like a day or a week. Sometimes it's like it can take a month. So you just kind of like see once the yellowing is gone on the bone, then it's generally like fat free. Then you can do a hydrogen peroxide. So I use like pretty low grade, like first aid hydrogen peroxide, which they don't even recommend using. But I think I just use that to make me feel better. I'm like, I don't want to use hair developer. I just want to like use something kind of chill. So I use some like 3% hydrogen peroxide to do like a kind of whitening. Hydrogen peroxide breaks down like organic material. I've used it on like my turtle shells before, and it's made them really like it almost makes them like peel apart. So like if you soak it too long in hydrogen peroxide, it can kind of like start to break down. But you can do your own research on that. Hello. Hey everybody. I'm just talking about preparing bones, which no one asked for. But so that's what I did with this one, is the moral of the story. I just kind of soaked it in soap and water and used like a brush, just like a regular tough hair brush, to kind of brush all the dirt and stuff off. And then I have this. This is, I don't know if you all watched my reels or my stories, but I went on a little nature adventure last week and I found this guy. He just kind of stood out to me. It was at Bear Wallow. Sorry, not Bear Wallow. It's Bear... anyway, it's my secret spot. And it has this like arrangement of sticks, and it's very like mysterious and like really cool. It's kind of like what we were talking about yesterday in forest frolicking. It's using like the available material that's already on the forest floor to sort of make a sacred arrangement for, whatever. So they have this big arrangement of sticks up there, and this was part of it. So I did take it, and it was funny because, talking about intuition, when I was like walking back out, I just kept thinking like, you got to go back. Like what did you do to deserve this stick? It's like, you're just taking pictures for Instagram. Like you gotta, which I like, yeah, I'm like, you got to like do something for the space. Like you, and it was like a message in my head that I just couldn't ignore, you know? So I ended up like turning around, going back and like re-entering the space and sort of like fix some of like the areas where the branches had like fallen apart. And I found this little like, I thought it was a piece of trash on the ground, but it was kind of like, it looked like a painting, like an acrylic paint canvas thing. Not natural, but I kind of put that in sort of like a little stump, like sacred spot. And, you know, just did a little tidying up around the little spruce grove. And after I did that, I felt a lot better about taking something, because I think like you need reciprocal give and take. You can't just like, even though I almost always take, I never harvest from fresh trees or shrubs. I always take driftwood or branches that have fallen, like sticks in the street. Like these sticks just like come to me, I guess. But I've never, I would never like, just for the energetics of it, like harvest a stick for that. I just like to use ones that have already like chosen to like be on the ground and give it like a more sacred purpose. So when I'm making, I wanted to kind of like, it's got these little cups in here. And when I'm making a stick, I kind of gather all my sacred little objects and things, and I say, what fits here? You know, what fits here? And I'm like, that fits there. Just so perfect. Sorry. I'm gonna pull up my chair. My cat stole my other chair. So then what I use to attach, you can use a couple different things, but I stick to either leather cord. There's a couple of different like suede leather cords you can use. And some of them are leather. I think some of them are like fake leather. The one I got yesterday was like deerskin. But you can use cord, you can use wire. I just like to stick to leather cord because I can use it again. Like wire, sometimes I'll put underneath if I want it to be like more secure. But wire you can't really reuse. And some of the spirit staves I think are meant to sort of like have their story, and you have to like go back and rework into them. I also guess I should talk about what I did to prepare the stick. So I just usually like brush all the dirt off that I can, and depending on like the type of stick you have, I like to make sure it's like generally strong, like not like rotting. Like you can definitely find fallen branches that are like rotting on the forest floor, but they're not very good for much of anything. And so I like to choose ones that are still like fairly like well, like have some life in them, I guess. I did take a journey stick class, which I think spirit staves are kind of like journey sticks, because my first spirit staff kind of helped me begin my journey of like finding my own tribe and I don't know, doing a lot more of this. The journey sticks are like an Aboriginal, kind of like Native American tradition, where young men would go out into the bush or into the forest or into the desert and have their sort of like coming of age journey. And they would bring a stick with them and they would carve into the stick and they would find like little tokens, and they would sort of like craft and like weave the journey of their manhood journey, coming of age journey, on this stick. So then when they went back to the tribe, they could like account like, oh, I like went over here and in this valley and I saw a bear and then I found this feather, and you know, I'm sure they had like very exciting stories, because I'm sure life was pretty intense back then. Yeah, but so you can like totally like carve into your stick. I usually do minimal carving. I kind of save the carving for like if I'm doing like if I'm putting a ring on it, or if I wanted this to fit like a certain place like kind of better, I would use like a little carving tool, or even just like a little sanding tool. Because if you do take all the outside bark off, then you're going to have to seal it with something. So, you know, I usually leave my sticks more in like their natural form. Sometimes they come to me and like they're already like shaved down. But there are like natural varnishes you can use as well. You can do a mixture of like beeswax and honey, and that kind of seals the wood on the outside. There's lots of different ones you can buy, but again, a lot of those, that the ones that work the best are like more like plastic based, which I don't know. It depends on what you're going for, but if we're going on like the most natural thing, like it's better to just kind of use the beeswax and honey method, and it can look really beautiful too, like that. Disco Stick Tribe. Yeah, so I had a shift from like cosplay to like the more natural stuff, kind of like, and it was when I like started building my antlers and making my first spirit staff. And yeah, I feel like a lot, because a lot of the things from my first staff were things that I found like in the forest, like with my dad, or things that he had given me. So it had all this like what feels like family, like medicine in it, and all these stories. And that's when I really like woke up to like finding my people. But then when I got to North Carolina, one of the first things I did was I said I have to go out and find another stick to make like a stick of celebration, of a stick of arrival. So I went walking in my neighborhood and I found this like 7-foot tall pine branch. And so I kind of drug that home with me. And over the next like couple of weeks, I sort of carefully chose some crystals and some antlers and a ring, and made my selenite staff. Do any of you build spirit sticks already, or something similar? Yes, I wanna show some sticks. Let me know whenever. All right, I'm doing a kind of good job with this. We're doing it just like on the fly, yo. use one of these little, it's like a leather awl needle. The good ones. Yeah, and I have been working on sticks this week as well. But I've been making a lot more wands, which I feel like wands are like more for ceremony, I guess, or for, I don't know, I feel like wands are for other people. I don't think that's true though. I think wands are, it's very similar to the spirit staff, but I break my own rules where I do use like epoxy on it. And, but I think it's like, I almost always do them on horns. This guy's going somewhere. I'm liking it. You have some sticks, but you haven't done anything yet. Well, I know sometimes it can be hard to know how to start. I want to talk a little bit about the ring that I use. So on almost all of mine, I use this ring. Like this. You can also use kudzu vine or some other vine that's in your area. I just went and got this one because we have so much of it. It's like everywhere. So I sort of use the ring to make it into like a sacred geometry thing, I guess. I'm turning it into a sigil. I'm using the ring and the staff and the geometry of it to turn it into the beacon of light or the earth stick, or, you know, it feels like I'm turning it into a sigil, if that makes sense. So I thought about using this one. But then I thought the bigger one might be better. Do you like the red and the kudzu? This one I just wove together. So a lot of spirit stuff that I do is just weaving, the weaving of leather, the weaving of rings, the weaving of your story. And a lot of times when I'm weaving it, I'm thinking about the story and the story of love that I'm in, or the story of my life right now. The story that's like crafting in front of me and behind me and simultaneously. Yeah. So wrapping the ring is like a big meditation practice for me. I can show you some of the knots that I use. A lot of these I just use like regular wrapping and then just do a little tuck under with the leather awl needle and kind of pull it through. Where do you get these rings? Well, there's a variety of rings, which is why it's sort of like a cheating thing, because I get them from craft stores, so like macrame rings. I do find rings outside sometimes that I think come from like electric poles or something. Yeah, but it all kind of started with making dream catchers, I guess. So that's also where the ring came from. I made like a dream catcher, and then I was like, oh, I'm gonna make like a giant one for whatever reason. And that was my first spirit staff. It just was like a dream. It's almost like a dreaming for the whole tribe. It's for everyone. So a lot of times I just wrap until you get to the end. And then that also helps, like, you attach it to the stick. It gives you a point of just like design and development, because a lot of sticks are just like straight up and down. So if you have a ring to work with, it's kind of like more helpful. I think it kind of makes like a portal as well. It's like a ring of protection. It's a portal. It's been a lot of things to me, but yeah, I think it's the dream portal, and it's like where you enter to like make your reality. And I think a lot of the spinning that kind of happens like through my dance with the spirit staves is like sort of weaving a portal and actually like making like an energetic like protection around me. Or I don't know, sometimes you can almost like see the light with it, around it. Yeah, sacred circle. So yeah, if you want like a natural circle, you can use like the vine, or I can use these. And yeah. Just want to show you some of my like first spirit staves. This is too big. This is like my original one. So I found it on the street. It's a sweet gum branch, and it has antlers and turkey feathers and goose feathers, and I've added like little fairy lights. This in the center here is a red Creek jasper bead, and this makes the portal the seeing eye portal, which I love. So I feel like I'm like looking into people's like true intentions. Yeah. So this is like my original one that when I first like moved down here, it was the one I was like taking out to bars and like taking on hikes and being extra just everywhere. I'm just like, this is my spirit staff. I'm like taking to house parties, like totally casual. But yeah, just because if I was feeling like afraid or if I wasn't feeling brave, I weigh like 100 pounds soaking wet. And I just like, if I have a giant like 6-foot stick with me, I feel a lot more safe. And honestly, I think people are a lot more terrified if they choose to be. This one's my selenite staff. Swoop. This one's really good like for ceremony, I think. A lot of times if I'm at a burn, I'm like, can I get it in the frame? I'll use it for like a Sunday temple burn ritual, because it just feels like a lot more sacred. It's like big, it's for the tribe. And this is the one that I kind of like I bored a little area for a flashlight so I could actually light up the selenite, which was a big design thing that I wanted to like achieve. And then these antlers are from my friend. He got them in New York State. And all these turkey feathers, sorry, there's like so much cat hair on it, are from my brother who shot a turkey that year. And Really beautiful. This is one that I took to Art Outside in Austin, Texas. So I got driven from North Carolina to Austin, Texas, and then I brought this back on the Greyhound bus, which was such an adventure. And yeah, I'm surprised they even allowed it. I had like 3 different sticks, and like in Texas, like they don't care because, you know, they're all like, they don't play by the rules. But once I got to Tennessee, they're like, honey, you can't take that on the bus. This is my turtle shell wand. And this is one I did the hydrogen peroxide on the outside to make it a lot more vibrant. So it took out the top layer. I think there's still like, never mind. It took off the top layer of like shell, but it revealed this beautiful like contrasting color underneath. This is the kudzu vine. And this is duck feather. When I first landed, like they had ducks on the farm, some blue jays. All these are feathers that I found. And then I've kind of started wrapping this one more on the handle just kind of recently because I've got this kudzu vine that like spirals down. This is on a cherry branch. It's either a cherry or a cherry willow. Yeah, blue jay. I love blue jay feathers. Maybe it's because they're just like, they're always coming to me. But they're nice. And this one, I think it's about storytelling. When I took this one to Avalon, which is like a festival land, that I met a gentleman who wanted to like read poetry by the light, and like, I don't know, he was like weaving his own story with it. He's like, can I borrow this and kind of like read poetry and by the creek? And I was just like, absolutely. Like, so I'm trying to figure out how I can like show up more for people, or like, you know, have these, but like also have them like be able to like work their magic. I've got a couple more. Let me know if you have any wants or needs. This is my, I call it my inspiration wand, or, sorry, did I write it down here? It's a pyrite sun. It's almost like hypnotizing. All these are sticks that I found like in the creek. The last one was, and this one. Sorry, I need to let my cat out. So fast. Okay. Yeah, so all these are like, could be redone. I used like a sinew for this one, and this one's kind of went through a couple of reincarnations, because at first I used wire to kind of hold it in place, and then I used this sinew. It's like an artificial sinew, so it's like a nylon kind of cord that people use for dream catchers and stuff, but it just like really fits in the hand well. That's what I'm looking for when I'm like looking for sticks. It's like, does it feel well in the hand? Does it feel like, this one kind of felt like a boomerang weapon or something. But this one's always like so hypnotizing to me. I always love this one. Sure. This one I'm still teach this class. I hope I'm teaching it. Am I learning you good? This is what I have called my strength wand. And this is more like going into the dream wands category of spirit staves. It's got the ring, and it's got this green china quartz. And I put all these little, they're just like these little jewelry like spikes on the outside. I'm sort of in the midst of changing all the wires to leather cord again. This one is protecting. Yeah, this one doesn't light up, but sometimes I'll wrap light around it if I'm like taking it to the club and I don't want to hurt anyone. And I just kind of keep it in my purse or in my pocket, and I'm like, oh yes, I have this magical wand. Just to have. But this one I carry around with me like somewhat more. And I think that's part of like why I started making like shorter little dream wands, is because like it was like so it's a lot of attention to like carry around like a 6-foot staff and navigate the world with it. But that's also why I bought a truck. Are we doing okay? How does the atmosphere respond to you? How does the atmosphere receive? You might need to ask me again. I just wanted to show you this little one that I'm working on just this week. And I feel like it's kind of inspired by those atmospheres. It kind of depends. People are pretty like receptive. If I'm confident about it, like people are there to see it. And like there's this one over here that I take out a lot. Because this one's kind of like casual club DeerHart. And this one sort of feels like I'm like healing groups of people. So a lot of times when I'm like carrying my stick and like working my magic, I feel like I'm there like healing the tribe or something, or it's like that's what I envision. That's what I've envisioned for this. Like this one I actually got to dance on stage when New Mountain was a venue. I know it's like none of you live in Asheville, but like there was this venue and it had like a lot of cool levels and stuff. And one of the desert dwellers actually let me dance on stage with my stick, and that was like really powerful for me. If I want to be the center of attention, I'm about it. But sometimes I'm like trying to hide. But I think a lot of people like, if they don't want to if they don't want to like approach me, I've had a lot more positive like interactions and connections with people approaching me being like, wow, like this is a really interesting art piece you have. What's that about? But then I also get like almost the opposite, where they're like, you didn't just come here to wave your stick around or something. So I've gotten like a little bit of like strange pushback, but I kind of just like ignore those people. I've also gotten like hit on by like other people who say they're shamans. It's just like, I'm actually a shaman. And I was just like, oh, because I don't really claim to be a shaman. But I know a lot of these have a lot of like energy like that. I guess using the natural objects and using the animal totems and the intention. And I've always just done things intuitively. Sometimes I get pushback from people about my feathers. They want to know if I'm Native American or if I'm like allowed to have that. I think I found it or my friend gave it to me. So as long as I'm not trying to sell it, then I think I'm allowed to have it. I'm not, but I think in that way I've like moved away from some feather stuff. And I think that's also why it's important to build your own. A lot of people like really love, they have a stick or they want a stick and they want to make it like really awesome. And they're like, what should I do? And I'm like, you kind of just got to see it. Like someone gifted me this stick, for example. It was a dumpster stick and it's a crepe myrtle. And I just kind of like saw it with this like little face and the arms up carrying like this big fireball, and I'm like, oh, this is like a fire elemental staff. But it's also like he's holding the light, you know? I don't know. Swoop. Do we want to work on my stick some more? I know we've got 20 more minutes, but I'm going to talk about a couple of these just real quick. Whoops. Sorry. Got my hands full. I've got this one, which is one I've been working on recently. And this is a product of a Brazilian amethyst with a South African Hawthorn. And I've just been like dreaming of making this. I get like these ideas and I'm just like, I almost get nervous to execute them because I'm like, what if they're too powerful, you know? But I'm really loving this Glessbach. Feels like a good weight and feels, you know, I don't know. I think it has to have a good weight, and then you can start to like kind of like flow with it. I don't know. Which is another thing I look for in sticks, like well balanced and nice like holding. Got a couple of these. These are like, and then these are, I'm like, are these separate? I sort of use these for the same reasons though. So these are like cow vertebrae that I found in the desert. And when I visited Arcosani, because I didn't have like any of my sticks with me, so I was like, I just need to make some while I'm here. So I went hiking and I found some of these vertebrae, and I kind of loaded them up with crystals. I've got a danburite. This one has a tourmaline and a green kyanite and a little bell on it. And then this one has an angelite, blue wing angelite, and I put a little light in there, which is not on right now. But this one's kind of like my rave vertebrae, I guess. It's got like the neon colors. My space fairy, yeah. I started using sound activations. So these tiny bells, these are like Tibetan tiger bells. So that kind of helped, I feel like, along with the ring, and it sort of like amplified everything. It's like the sound activation. And this one feels like a lot more for ritual. I call this like my shadow work wand because it has like this crystal with this phantom in it, and I started it during COVID, so which was a big time of just like a lot of internal, you know, thoughts. So I know I'm not perfect all the time. Sometimes I think I have fairy morals, but I do the best I can. This is my other sound activation one, and these actually have feathers from my father's rooster, which is a black rooster that my dad found in the ditch and took home, and he's just this beautiful black fancy rooster. And so this has a lot of like of my father's protective energy on it. It has a black tourmaline crystal. This stick is from a friend of mine, and he got it from the redwood forest. So it's a good stick. I think sticks all have such like cool personalities, which like sounds so dumb, but it doesn't sound dumb. It's just like, I just like have so many sticks, and I think they just all are so like, I can't get rid of them. And people just keep giving me more, so I've got to make them up. This one, it's got like a cool handle. a lot of times I do this wrapping of leather where like my hand would go, and then this down here is like my secret little light thing. So another thing I do is, until we can like magically get things to light up, which, you know, let me know if you have that technology, I've got to light things up with little fairy lights. But this can really help see in the forest at night. It really helps kind of activate the portal, I think. So much cat hair. Yay! Yeah, I have this dream of like, I want to start doing more touch activated things. I don't know. It's like the solar power thing, like, I don't think that can like really work that well, but I would love to do like a touch activated, like the lamps. It's like, bow, bow, bow. I love this one. So this one I use like for protection, or like, I actually use this one like if I'm going out and there's someone that I don't want to see, I'll carry this with me. That's just how I do things, I guess. And I haven't ran into anyone that I didn't want to see. So yeah, this one does, they all do kind of little dances. This one kind of does a little spinny dance sometimes. But they almost, like, almost all the bigger ones light up. I feel like it's always like kind of the final like thing. So, sorry. Let me check my notes here. Any more questions on things? I might have wanted to show you a couple more. This is one I did with Selkie. Not with Selkie. Sorry, I think of this as my Selkie staff sometimes. But this is one I made for Selkie's like prompt fairy contest. It was for a swamp trickster. So I was thinking of like this curly, I love this, it had all these prompts. I think it was like trickster, swamp, bone, details, mushroom. So I was really inspired by that. So I kind of like wanted to make a kind of like a swamp witch staff. So this is what that one turned out like. It's got the same little like portal hole, but I used a little like cat vertebrae. And then I used the, not sinew, but like just this little string, an amber. So when I was dancing with it the other day, I kind of like, the crystal fell off of it, which is a danger aspect of not using glue. Sometimes I'm dancing with my sticks and I've got to make sure they're not falling apart, and like, because they're full of pointy antlers and pointy crystals. But yes, I've got a little turkey tail mushroom on the back of here that I kind of wrapped on. So this is one I'm going to revisit. I kind of like it better without the crystal. And the crystal was kind of like, I guess I should put a crystal on here, but I think it's almost more powerful though when you're taking things, getting back to the journey stick thing, you're taking things from your own journey and putting it into like one powerful object. So like I've done all this work to like, you know, and I'm just like in a certain, I've put myself in this position of like access to all the crystals. But I think when we get back to like the root of it, like it's about intent and it's about like things that you find on your journey. And, you know, I've done so many adventures with my sticks and like gotten my own parables from them. Like I can find a black feather in the forest at night because I have. And my sticks taught me that. And I think, sorry, I like to use them in my, also in my like, when I'm like walking the space, the perimeter, I do like my spinning portal. It is like making a portal, magic, and like, I don't know. So if you're ever like, I don't know. I like go to the deer fields and people are like, I didn't see you there. And I'm like, I was in the woods the whole time, like just working on sticks. But I think that's okay too, because that's what I want to do when I'm there. So, and then occasionally I'll go down and see the music and like all the other humans. But I like to like be out with the fairies and, kind of like away from all the humans a lot of times and frolicking in the forest. Yeah, I love this one. So this one's got like the Swamp Trickster kind of bones energy, and it's got a good flow. This is a stick I had to go back and retrieve when I was hiking. I like had set it down to like feel some like moss. I was like, ooh, so soft. And then, who knows how long later, I realized I didn't have my stick anymore, my perfect little hiking stick. So I had to trek back and like I found it, but it just makes it that much more sacred and that much more like worth it, because you could be like, oh, there's a million sticks, but you're like, that's the one, I need that one. And look at what it turned into, just like a beautiful work of art and still continuing. Yes. So I can let you know how this thing goes. I know I wanted to have more done with it beforehand, but I was thinking about doing maybe like a green ring with some other crystals and stuff. But I think you just have to like use like the whatever's available. So like this little pocket here, I would probably put something in. And then down here, if I was going to put like a light thing, I would probably hide it like under this little knot and do like a leather wrap around there. Yay. It is an Amazonite. I am an urban fairy. Ashel's kind of like pretty naturey, but it's also like pretty urban, and there's a lot of people around and tourists, and sometimes I know we've talked about yesterday like being sort of like afraid when you're in the fairy of humans or like to be seen, but sometimes I think you have to approach it from like the standpoint of just like curiosity, where you're just like, oh, a human, and then you just like have like a flower in your hand and you're just like, oh, did you see this? And they just be like, oh, like, yeah, that's cool. But I don't know, just like I'm still trying to figure out how to like interact with humans, but I think, yeah, being invisible is one way, but also like coming into a sort of like playful energy is another way. But I think so. Yes. I really like how this is going, and I really want to put the ring on it later today. I actually started wrapping it last night. Approach it as the Fae. I think using colors that are resonating with you is also important. I don't think anything has to like match or anything, but doing like a sketch beforehand can really help me. Just kind of like sketching the stick and just like what I see with it around it. I can put some of my sketches up from my notebooks later. It is kind of a lot of repetitive wrapping and stuff. But I would love to see like more people like have it in their life. Like I love like, because I work pretty close to where I live, so I can like walk to work with my sticks if I feel like it. And it is kind of downtown, but like once I get to like my Crystal Shop Haven, like I feel pretty safe. But I think it's important to make your own, because we're all on such individual heart journeys that it's almost like unfair to say this is what you need. Like if a stick like resonates with someone, that's touching, like I love that. But I think making your own story is like so important when you're like making the wrap on the ring. So hey, is there a special knot? So there's not really a special knot. I just try to make sure it's like flat with the leather. So I pull it, let's say we go around the ring. I don't know if it has a name. It's just like, it's almost just like a half knot. I don't even think that's right. Because you do it just like through it while you're going around. Sorry if that doesn't make sense. It's just, I think it's just like a regular knot. I do like with my new one, I really started like doing the weaving. Liz. This one's got like some interesting weaving on the back and then on the front. Yes. So we're just getting better all the time. Part of me thought I was just going to wrap this ring for an hour. I was like, I hope I don't do that. Tension's important. You want like even tension, and some of the leather suede can be like more stretchy, and then you just really want to make sure that your tension's well and that the coils are kind of like have all the same like width on them. Which one's awesome? Thanks for coming, everybody. Let me know if you have any questions. I would love to like even like give you opinions about like your sticks. I love to see like what other people are crafting and where you're at on your journey. I wanted to say something about my period because I started my period today, and like that's how I know it's just like such a sacred time, because you know I always bleed when it's important. Like my very first Transformist, when I brought all my spirit stabs, it was one of the first time my period was like almost 2 weeks late. And I was just like, this doesn't even make sense. But then I ended up bleeding on the very last day at the temple burn into the ground. And so it felt like it was all had greater meaning, and made me feel like even more connected to like cycles and like everyone and the earth. So I've just got a couple seconds left. I'm DeerHart. You can follow me at Deer_Diary. You can follow my cat at Cafe Cat Bay. And thanks for showing up. And I will see you soon. Much love.